If you want to be a successful start from scratch founder, you gotta learn the loop. That's the build, measure, learn loop, popularized by Eric Ries in his book, The Lean Startup. This is a framework to learn through prototyping, getting real customer feedback along the way. I'm Doc John, the Entreprofessor. I'm an entrepreneur and a professor of entrepreneurship. In this video, I'll explain what each phase of the build, measure, learn loop looks like, along with 3 examples that you can try. First, here are a few benefits and drawbacks to using the build, measure, learn loop. Among the benefits for the build, measure, learn loop are being able to learn fast and cheap. You can try something out really quickly, look for feedback from the market, and if it doesn't work, move on without a lot of investment. At the same time, if you're getting positive feedback from the market, you can build on that success. You can improve what you've done, and you can look for more feedback to make sure that what you're doing fits what customers really want. There are also some drawbacks. You can have false starts. Your market reputation can suffer, or you can be inefficient. False starts can be anything like putting an idea out there and realizing it's just not going to work, and getting some people excited about it, and then they realize that it failed and it didn't work, and then you lose credibility with them. That can affect your market reputation. The market might not take you seriously on second and third attempts. If your first attempt in the market gets enough attention for people to realize what you're trying to do, but they see that it doesn't work very well. And of course, this can be inefficient. You can spend time putting something out there that doesn't work, it fails, and now you have to start all over. However, the benefits can far outweigh these drawbacks when you're able to test an idea in a very cheap and inexpensive and quick way to see if you're on the right track. Here's a breakdown of each component to the build, measure, learn loop. First, we're gonna build. This means creating a prototype in the simplest, fastest, cheapest way possible and getting it out into the world, seeing if it works. This doesn't mean that you have to build the perfect prototype that's actually a working product ready to go into production. It may look like a doodle in your sketchbook. It might be something that you build with clay or with wood or with metal just to show what it would look like. For service, it could be a process flow that shows the steps of how you're going to deliver a valuable service. You might even just launch a landing page website that shows what the product is going to look like and prompts for interest or pre-orders so that you can see how the market will react to your idea. There are lots of great tools that can be used for prototyping. A lot of times they're free. If you want to build an app, you can leverage no-code platforms to get a mock-up of your app and put it out there. If it's a tangible product, you can try making these prototypes with different kinds of mediums that convey the idea of it, even if it doesn't completely work yet. Some products may work a little bit, but not all the way, and you may just deliver some services along with that product in your prototype just to show that you can deliver the value. Go back later to automate those steps or to create processes to do them in a repeatable way. In the build portion of the build, measure, learn loop, you're creating some version of the product that you can show and allow people to test out and use in their circumstances to see, does it really begin to address the problem that they have? Next, we're gonna measure. In the measure stage of the build, measure, learn loop, we're collecting data about how the world is responding to your prototype. You are now a scientist, you are an observer of your own work, and you're looking closely to see how are customers responding to this. It's not just a matter of finding an idea that you like or maybe a few friends like. You wanna see if your product is going to deliver value to those customers who you hope to sell to in the future. In this way, you want to measure their response. It can be very subtle things like, do they spend a lot of time looking at it? Or do they respond to it on social media? Do they tell their friends about it? Do they use it and try to keep using it? Do they start to ask a lot of questions about it? Or do they quickly move on to something else? These are all things that can inform your decisions about whether you want to continue in the way you started or if you want to make changes. Collecting data can come in many forms. You might take a survey to get customers to give feedback after they've looked at or used a product. You might interview them and ask them what their experience was like. You might bring a group of people together to form a focus group and talk about their experiences together. But even better data can be what you can actually observe that the individual's not even aware of. So if they download an app, that gives you information about whether they thought it looked interesting enough to download it. If they call and schedule a demo, that shows that they're interested. Maybe they sign up to get more information. You might even set an opportunity where they might pre-order the product so they think they're actually going to pay for it and actually receive the product. These are all data points that can tell you how people are responding to the product. And if the response is highly positive, that's giving you an affirmation that you're heading in the right direction. You've identified a real problem, and the message that you're sending, the story that you're telling, is suggesting to customers that you may be able to bring them value and help them to address that problem. In the learn phase of the build, measure, learn loop, you're going to analyze your data. You're going to look for and capture insights that inform your learning about your customer, about the solution that you've created, and about how well these two things connect with one another. Analyzing your data can be as simple as counting the number of positive responses you get, perhaps likes on social media, downloads, signups, or registrations of some sort. But it could also be more sophisticated analysis of data. Are there correlations between the types of individuals who responded positively versus those who responded negatively to your product? Did you discover something in the process that didn't work very well that caused confusion or even agitation on the part of the customer that would need to be addressed before you could bring your idea forward? Or did your data show that customers have already found a good way to deal with that problem and they don't really need something new, meaning they wouldn't be as likely to invest in the time or the money it would take to switch to the solution you have? These are all useful insights that can help you to inform the next iteration as you progress through the build, measure, learn loop over and over again. These insights can inform how you approach the next time through the build, measure, learn loop. This is an iterative process that you can do over and over and over again until the product is just right, or until you find that the feedback you're getting from the market does not affirm your assumptions and suggests that maybe you need to go in a different direction, either with the product, your business model, or the way that you bring the product to market. Once you've worked your way through the build, measure, learn loop, it's time to repeat the loop again and again through iterations that will help you to find that perfect product market fit. Each time you go through this loop, you're going to learn something new. You're going to improve the process. You're going to change the process. You're going to make adjustments based on the feedback you're getting from customers, and that data is going to show how they're responding to it. That learning in turn will give you what you need to make a decision about whether you should go through another iteration, a return through the build, measure, loop, learn again, or if you need to make a change and pivot and go in a different direction. Once you've worked your way through the build, measure, learn loop, it's time to repeat the loop again and again through iterations that will help you to find that perfect product market fit. Each time you go through this loop, you're going to learn something new. You're going to improve the process. You're going to change the process. You're going to make adjustments based on the feedback you're getting from customers, and that data is going to show how they're responding to it. That learning in turn will give you what you need to make a decision about whether you should go through another iteration, a return through the build, measure, loop, learn again, or if you need to make a change and pivot and go in a different direction. So if you're ready to try out the build, measure, learn loop, here's how it works. You're going to start with a hunch. In the Doer's Manifesto, Luis Perez Brava talks about having a hunch. And the hunch is a combination of what a problem is that exists and also a potential solution for that problem. Once you find that problem, you're going to build something and then get a customer to try it. So who's a customer? This is someone who fits into your target customer segment, but in this case is also easily accessible to you. Whether you connect with them through social media, through some kind of a forum on the internet, whether it's a group of people that you know or have access to, you want to be able to connect quickly with a group of customers that can immediately try out what you're doing and give you feedback about their experience with it. So here are the steps. Number 1, identify your problem or hunch. Number 2, build a simple prototype. Number 3, have some representative customers try it out and collect data about their experience that can reveal insights about what you need to do in the next iteration of your solution. Here are some examples of data sources. You can use social media engagement to tell you how much response you're getting to your idea. Site visits to a website can also tell you a lot about who's finding your site and who's coming to it. Signups, if you have some kind of a sign up for a mailing list or information or even a pre-order. Downloads for an app can be a useful leading indicator of whether there's interest in the idea that you're presenting in the world. Survey responses and interviews can also be very useful ways to collect data directly from customers that you can use to inform your understanding of their problem and what they need in terms of a solution. You're going to want to examine your data closely and identify conclusions that inform your next iteration. So here are 3 examples that you can try out with the Build, Measure, Learn loop to see if you have interest in an idea or an approach that is uniquely yours. One could be technology coaching service. So imagine for a minute you find a group of people that wants to understand technology better, but so far doesn't have a lot of experience with it. Maybe they want to understand mobile technology. Maybe they want to understand the Internet of Things. Maybe they want to understand how AI tools work. Creating a landing page that promotes the service or some kind of a promotion that draws people in that have this interest can be a great way to practice the build, measure, learn cycle. A second idea is flavored milk. And maybe not just any milk, but maybe something like almond milk or something that would be interesting from a health perspective, but also have unique and different flavor characteristics that might appeal to a certain audience. How might you test that idea without ever even having to produce a product? Another example would be to create a directory of sports resources. If you see a sport that doesn't get a lot of attention and there are various resources that you like to go to get news about that sport or to learn about that sport or to find out what's happening within that sport, you might be able to bring those ideas together into some kind of a resource that would create affinity among a certain customer segment. These are just 3 examples of ideas that you could try and test in the Build, Measure, Learn loop. See where it takes you. So coming up, I'm going to introduce a series of weekly challenges. So each week for the next few months, I'm going to suggest a weekly challenge. If you're up for the challenge, post a note and let me know if you're planning to accept the challenge and what you're going to try to do. Also, once you've created your prototype, share that in the notes too. I'm really interested to see what kinds of prototypes you create and launch based on these ideas each week. If you think you have what it takes for the Build, Measure, Learn challenge, let's get started.